online dating websites in North America. The women that I liked didn't like me. And the women that reached out to me, I wasn't interested in them. When I did join that 𝗙𝗙friendly.com, I mean, look at this face. This is not, you know what? I'm not going to contact anybody. And I didn't. And I wanted to see who was going to be contacting me. And oddly enough, there was a few women that reached out to me. And
okay, in this video, Stephen is going to cover dating in Thailand, but there's also some other things that we're going to talk about. One is, why are Canadians and some Australians snowbirds instead of full-time retirees overseas? That has to do with the pension laws and the healthcare laws in Canada and Australia, which we'll talk about later. And also, Stephen's going to share some of his tips about dating. But at the end of the video, I'll share a couple of tips with you that contradict kind of what I've learned, and also show you a playlist of all of our dating tips at the end of this video. This is Dan of Vagabond Awaken. Today we're lucky to have Stephen on the channel. Tell us where you're from and tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to looking for love outside your home country.
Hi, Dan. Thanks for having me on your channel. I really, really appreciate it. I'm actually from Canada. I live in central Canada, Manitoba to be exact. In 1982 to 2020, most of my life I spent as a long-haul truck driver. When the pandemic started, or the lockdown started, I had had the opportunity to come off the road and do what I'm doing now, which is I'm actually still in the trucking industry, but in a different capacity. I'm an instructor. And having said that, during that time when I was on the road, I was married for 24 years, and we had 3 children out of that. And now I have 6 grandchildren with 1 on the way. In 2016, I got divorced, started actively looking for places around the globe where I could retire cheaply, with the word cheap being a key word, because being divorced kind of pretty near wiped me out. You know, when I was looking for cheap, safe, a lot of other things, Thailand, oddly enough, started rising really to the top of that list. So I started watching videos. That's probably how I learned about your channel and a few other guys' channels. I knew for sure that I was going to go to Thailand, started looking for online dating websites, and that's where I found 𝗙𝗙friendly.
Dating in Southeast Asia, particularly Thailand, what were your experience before that? Why do you think Canada didn't work for you in that?
Actually, I did get involved with a couple online dating websites in North America. The women that I liked didn't like me, and the women that reached out to me, I wasn't interested in them. In that whole process, I never ever met one single person face-to-face dating online. So I was really actually turned off from it more than anything else. And when I knew for sure I was going to focus on Thailand specifically, because I was also looking at China, never thought about Vietnam. I don't know why, because I've been there now 4 or 5 times and I love the country. But China and Thailand for some reason, but Thailand won out.
Personally, I think attraction is a very important part of the whole dating ritual and picking a partner. So if there's no mutual attraction, that's sort of a dead end. So why did you pick Thailand?
Because when I did join that 𝗙𝗙friendly.com, it was, I mean, look at this face. This is not, I'm not putting myself down. It's just, this is who I am. Okay. So I look at it this way. I go, okay, you know what? I'm not going to contact anybody. And I didn't. And I wanted to see who was going to be contacting me. And oddly enough, there was a few women that reached out to me, and I would go through their profiles, and then there was the one that I go, first thing, and because human nature, we like what we like, and physical appearance, and there was this one, and I'm like, okay. So I touched base with her, and it was a near instant attraction on my part right out the gate. And so that's what really got me zeroing in on Thailand. Long story short, we ended up married in 2020, but that's how I ended up focusing my full attention on Thailand, was because back then I was still trucking. And because of the Line app, I was able to communicate with her twice a day, even though we're 12 hours difference. When I was getting up in the morning, she would be getting ready for bed. So I would be talking to her while I'm starting my day. And then at the end of my driving day, she would be getting up, and I would be focusing on the end of my day. So it worked out. And she was actually surprised that I talked to her every single day, because she had been on the website a little bit longer than me, and guys had reached out to her and stuff like that. But she said she'd hear from somebody once, never again, or somebody once, and then maybe again in a week, and then again in a week. She was really shocked that I was every single day. I thought I was driving her crazy, but anyway, it worked out and still is working out.
If you like my free ebook about how I fired my boss and traveled the world for 17 years and how I pay for things, come to Vagabond Buddha and grab the free ebook.
That's amazing. So
Yeah.
so you've been married for 4 years
Yeah.
now. So and so your first interactions with Thai women, you took a passive role and wanted to see who would approach you. And then this
Exactly.
woman, she was surprised that you were interacting with her twice a day, really. And so that's kind of a hint that's a hint for what other men are not doing that you did that made a difference to find someone you were both attracted to and were even able to marry eventually. So that's a huge tip right there. Consistency.
She told me this, that she had the feeling that maybe one or two of the guys that had reached out to her, people that are married and probably that shouldn't be on these sites, are actually playing the field. And I think she ran into that a couple of times. She was adamant when I came to Thailand for the first time in January 2017 that I bring a copy of my divorce certificate. She was adamant that I brought that. No problem.
So what cultural differences did you notice when it comes to dating between Canada versus Thailand?
All the videos I watched talked about Thailand being a paradise, and it is. The language obviously was a major thing, because my wife lives in northern Thailand. She lives in Chiang Rai. And so I just landed in Bangkok and shot straight up to there. But anyway, the point is, not a lot of people in Chiang Rai. There are some people you'll run into that know a little bit of English. You know what? Honestly, I didn't like it at first. If I'm going to enjoy this, I got to change my attitude, because it's not North America. And anybody who's going to go to Thailand has got to get that out of their mindset, that, you know, you're in a totally different world when you're in Thailand or in Asia, to be honest with you. And after I changed my mind, I love it there. I'd stay there permanently if I could.
What advice would you give to men who are considering looking for love in Thailand? What should they be aware of?
If you're thinking about going to Thailand, or Asia for that matter, where English is not predominant language, and you're communicating with somebody, especially somebody you've met online, be very patient with them, because especially if their English is a little bit good, you have to give them time to process what they said, because they're processing it in Thai language and trying to repeat it back to you in your language. So that's one of the things that I would say. If you're looking for love in Thailand, for example, be patient with the lady. Don't be upset with them if they don't understand you. I'll tell my wife something even to this day, and she'll come back with something that's totally opposite of what I was even talking about. So it takes a lot of patience when you're dealing with somebody like that, but the end payoff is well worth it as far as I'm concerned.
So do you think there are misconceptions about dating internationally, particularly in countries like Thailand? Like, people have this preconceived notion of what finding, love in Thailand is going to be like. What are some of those misconceptions?
Thai people in general, from my observation, are very hardworking people. And sadly enough, they earn a very, very low wage. Not all. Thailand is oddly, they consider it a third world country. But if you come to Bangkok for the first time, you'd wonder why, because it looks like a world-class city. They have everything that I could say, everything that Toronto has, Vancouver has, Chicago has, name any city in North America, and they have it all. And me not being up on world economics, I can't figure out why their wages are so low. But that's sad for them, but good for guys like me, because our money goes a lot further in places like that. But any misconceptions that people may have is, and my own family had this about me when I was talking about my future wife. They said, she just wants a car, she just wants to get to Canada, she just wants your money, and so on and so forth. I said, well, I'm already in Canada, and the women I've met here, they want my money. And they want, so women like money, period. People like money. You need money to survive. Plain and simple. Right. I waited. I told my wife, wait till I come there. I did give her money for a new cell phone simply because the one she had was long in the tooth. And in order for me to communicate with her better, I bought her a new cell phone and that was it. And then when I got there and I said, let's see if we have a connection. Let's see if there's something clicking here. And then we'll go from there. And yeah, so, and then after that, supporting her was not expensive for me at all. And it definitely made a change to her world in a lot of ways. And it just continues on. And just to go a little bit deeper into that misconception thing, the only thing is, if you're a guy and you're coming to Thailand, like I know somebody who wants to come and he wants to go in February, and it's all thanks to me. And I don't want him to, he's met a woman and everything. And hopefully everything works out for him. But now he's watching a ton of videos and everything else. But I told him, he said to me, I want to hang out in Bangkok if this thing doesn't work out. And I just mentioned to him, well, be careful, because there's a lot of videos out there where guys have fallen for bar girls, and some work out, but probably the majority of those stories don't end very well. And he's very vulnerable right now. So I'm hoping he takes heed to my warning. But the misconceptions are I don't know if there's what the misconceptions are really, except for the fact that, be careful. It's your money, do with it what you want, but you still have to be careful with what you're doing and use common sense. And I'm not a drinker or a party guy, so I don't go to the bars and that. The only thing I know about them is based on what I've seen online. And that's just something that just doesn't, I'm glad I didn't go for that, because I could have been burned that way potentially. But
yeah, that's great advice.
Any other,
and the fact that you went to a smaller town increased your odds to get an authentic relationship. So looking back, what would you say to your younger self?
To my younger self, what I would say is, if you're a younger guy and you're thinking about Thailand, because a lot of younger guys go to Thailand and whatever, and if you're marriage minded, if you're party minded, that's a different scenario. If you're looking for something, you'll probably find something, but it's probably not what you need, or we like what we like. So you would see a woman and you go, wow, I like that, I'm going after that. But is she right for you? But if you focus on your career, your hobbies, your volunteer work, whatever it is, when things are going really good for you, then pause. At that time, pause. When things are going well, and look around and see who the people are around you, because right in that group, there could be somebody who would be perfect for you. Usually we end up with what we're looking for, and then that's not necessarily the good thing. It works out sometimes, and sometimes it didn't.
So Stephen, you mentioned something earlier that I'm sure people are wondering about. You said, I would live full time in Thailand if I could. And you also mentioned that you're married to a Thai person. That brings up this concept of if you will, a multi-country cost of living. You're living in Canada, so you probably have a residence there, and your wife has some expenses and maybe a residence there that you're maintaining. How does the cost of living vary for the two? The reason I ask this is there are men who are maybe not at the time in their life yet where they can completely leave their home country, but maybe they can spend 3 or 6 months of the year overseas, and maybe they have a seasonal job, whatever. What is it? And so that's kind of a different animal. What does it cost to maintain two lives in Canada and Thailand? And you don't have to be exact, but just give us an idea.
Yeah, no, I know. Actually, that's an awesome question, because that's what I'm doing. My job allows me to do that. When I was trucking, there's so much need for trucking in North America, even to this day. They were okay with me going away for the winter as long as I came back. And that's even true with this job that I have right now as an instructor. Last year, I was in Thailand from December to April. This year, I'm going from January to April. My Thai wife and I, we bought a house here in Manitoba, so there's that. And she owns her house outright in Chiang Rai. She doesn't live in the city, she lives in the province. So basically her expenses are just day-to-day living expenses and electric and all of that. Supporting my wife with 10,000 Thai baht a month, because she's just recuperating. That's all she really needs.
So 10,000 baht to maintain when she already owns her house. So that's just
right,
for, like, utilities and food. and just for the listener, it's about 308 US, who knows, maybe 500 Canadian or whatever. What does it cost, and what does it cost for your Canadian life on that side of the globe?
Yeah, closer to $2,000 a month.
Okay, good. So somebody, it's possible at least for somebody to live, depending on where in Thailand and where in Canada, for 2,000-3,000 to maintain two residences. In the case of your example, where she owns her house. So, do you think financial considerations play a big role in why some men choose to look for love in Thailand? And how has it affected your own experience?
Yes, I certainly believe that that's true, because that's one of the reasons why Thailand quickly rose to the top of my list, because based on my income, and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to stay anywhere for, permanently. It would, and the reason why mostly is because I got 3 children here and 6 grandchildren and 1 on the way. So I still want to see my kids and grandkids. So I knew I would come back 6 months of the year. Plus, apparently, and I don't know 100% if this is true, some of your listeners may know or not. If I stayed in Thailand, retired there, and stayed there, heard that I could lose my old age pension.
Okay, why Canadians are snowbirds. In Canada, if you decide to leave Canada and live elsewhere in the world, your eligibility to receive your pension is based on having lived in Canada for at least 20 years, from what I read online today. If you lived in Canada for less than 20 years, then you'll receive your pension check for 6 months after you leave, and then it will terminate. And then presumably, if you went back, hopefully you can get that restarted again. So that limits how many months of each year you can be out of the country, from my understanding, but do check into that. Canada healthcare is also a little bit similar. It expires in 6 to 8 months after you move overseas, though there are exceptions for students and other special groups, which I won't get into. Because your coverage is contingent on your residence in your province in Canada. When you return, it's 2 to 3 months typically before your healthcare coverage will begin again, and that will be province dependent, and the laws can change at any time. So definitely check on that before you make any long-term decisions. Australia has a similar thing. If you live in another country, you'll get what they call an outside Australia rate. And from the date you leave, and your pension supplement will drop to the basic rate. Also, you can access your government medical coverage for treatment in Australia for up to 5 years after you move overseas. After 5 years, you won't be able to access your medical unless you move back to Australia and live there. And those are just things that Stephen brought up in the channel that I read a little bit about. And finally, Stephen's contradicting a couple of things that I recommend in some of my dating overseas videos and some of my guests. But we're all different, and the results are going to vary depending on our personality. And this worked out for him, so it's great. But if you're interested in other ideas or tips, one of the things I give in one of my other videos is don't spend too much time with somebody that you met online until you find out whether or not your attraction converts to in-person life. You hear these stories about people that communicated for a year or two before they ever met, and then found out that it didn't translate into real life. So don't overcommit before you verify in-person attraction. But we have a video playlist about international dating, which is up here. Go ahead and click that and start watching. To check out Stephen's channel, go to youtube.com/@truckin/.